when Nick and I met, I was like 60 pounds heavier than I am today.
Wow.
Because when I got into business, I went head first. Like it became, 20 hours a day for years because I had similar childhood as you, rough childhood that I think sort of chasing from with just work to where like, if I could just prove everybody wrong and just, do nothing but work, I thought that I was going to, be this great person and feel better about it. But I honestly like destroyed my body in the process and just like was in horrendous condition. And shortly after meeting Nick and like us working together, lost 60 pounds and training for a marathon now in February. And really just every day we just try to be the best version of ourselves, focused on fitness and recovery and trying to also influence everybody around us to do the same thing and push people, because you're just going to feel better and you're going to be around longer at the end of the day for the people you love. So I would say I never even came close to figuring out the best version of myself, and I'm still not there. I'm chasing that every single day, just trying to get to like what is the best version of me. So I think that everyone we've talked to, I don't think we've talked to anybody that's highly successful that's
not heavily involved in, at least focused on their health,
for sure.
Because it's so important. And like you're in a client-facing industry, we're in a client-facing industry, and it is so important, like to present yourself in a way that shows that from the outside you're a disciplined person. You care about yourself. You're going to care about the people that you're taking care of.
Yeah, and the universe is extremely interesting when you just make a decision. How things start to get out of your way and things start to get attracted to you. And that's kind of what happened to me. I didn't have a blueprint, and I don't think we ever do. So now I live by this, just get 80% of the way there. 80% of the way there, and then just take action. Ready, fire, aim. Just ready, shoot the gun, and then start aiming afterwards. That's kind of how it happened.
I think where so many people run into no action is they want 100% of the blueprint done.
Yeah.
They want to see the entire pathway, and in their perfect world, they want also no risk attached to it at the same time. And why just no one takes action is you're actually never going to have the full blueprint. Nick and I talk with our team all the time as from a standpoint of, like with strategy, you have to use all of the information available to you at the moment to make a best decision on where you see or think you'll be or what you think is going to work. And you got to be willing to just make that decision and go. You're never going to have all of the information to know for certain that you're making the right move or not. But it's just everyone that has their own story, just like you shared of at one point they had to pull the trigger and just go with it, because you're never going to have all the information.
So and that's where all the fun is.
100%.
Like, because if you knew what was going to happen, like if you guys knew in your business where exactly you're going to go, it's kind of anticlimactic.
100%.
There's no value
It's like
in
you
that.
played the game already.
Yeah.
Like you already beat all the levels.
Yeah.
It's not fun anymore.
This is my favorite time of the year every year, really at like the end of the year and moving into the next year, because I do a ton of reflection about just 12 months ago. What was our strategy then? Where did we think we'd be today? And it's always light years apart to where you're either way overachieved that, or you didn't even know you were going to run into these 6 hurdles and like Nick said, levels you had to beat before you're even at to where you're at today.
Absolutely.
So it's my favorite time of the year to reflect and take all the lessons you learned throughout the year and then use them to try to beat all the levels you're going to face next year.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny because for me, it always goes back to fitness. Like, you don't know. You think you have this information, but you got to go take the action. And just the process is where all the value is. The little bit of not knowing, that 20% of not knowing is actually where living is. Because like you said, if you know, then it's anticlimactic. Who cares?
It's not fun.
And honestly, what Nick and I have learned, especially a lot in the last 2 years, is sometimes failure is even better than a win. Because and like sometimes failing early like saves you a ton of money, or it saves you a ton of time, to where failure, I think, is just as much an opportunity and a really position to grow as a win, and sometimes even more of a growth point than a win, because it's going to give you the information that you didn't have that is going to help get you to the next point that you needed to get to. So I'm always grateful for failure, and I'm honestly more grateful when it happens quicker at whatever we're doing, because we just gain that knowledge that much faster.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
It's so necessary. This is like a couple months ago, actually, in LA. It was like my cheat meal day, and we're all at dinner. And we're all at a steak dinner. It's like me, Kyle, the Nelk guys, we're all at dinner. And the waiter comes around. He's like, "Does anybody want dessert?" And I was like, "Yeah, I would love a chocolate chip cookie." Like, yeah. So I order a chocolate chip cookie, and Kyle's just like, how are you going to be our trainer on the road and you're ordering a shoulders? I was like, dude, it's my cheat day today. Like I was disciplined all week. Like, come on. But no, all eyes are on you all the time. So it's just, you gotta hold yourself accountable. It's a blessing because it's a blessing because now I have to hold myself to a very high standard. Like I have to. There's no way around it. So it pushes me every single day. I'm running a marathon in a month. I never thought in my life I'd run a marathon. And now I know people are looking up to me, so motivated by me. And I'm like, I want to keep doing these types of things to motivate people. And I'm holding myself to a high standard for that reason. It's a blessing to have people looking up to you and having that pressure. It's a real blessing. So
I love that because we talk about that all the time. Where like our success in business, like our main driver is like all of the people who we always say like we work for the people who work for us because
100%.
like
They're dependent on us.
Like they look to us for like the new opportunity and for the growth and for all of those things and for the leadership. And like it's our job every single day to come in and make sure that we're providing for those people. And like when you have that pressure of like our organization's now 50 people, when you know that there's 50 people looking to you like every day to be like, are you slacking off? Are you doing everything you're supposed to be doing? Are you working as hard as you should be? Like that's the main driver of like kicking you in the ass. Like at this point for us, it's not about the money or it's not about like what else goes on or the numbers. Like it's really about like how you can impact people. So I love that like you have that same correlation in what you do and how you see things. Because I ultimately think like as you continue to go and go and go, it's more than yourself. It always becomes more than yourself. It becomes about the other people that you're serving.
Another like, key word that, we hear all the time is people think that we're crazy. You mentioned the word psychotic. We talk a lot about just being obsessed and taking massive action. And I guess, question for you would be, when you first started doing that in business, what was the reaction of the people in your, network and around you? Did you also go through, that period of people just didn't understand you, didn't know why you
Yeah.
did it?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody had the entrepreneurial saying is pretty cliche. It's like first they laugh and then they're
Yep.
quiet, and then it's, hey,
Hmm.
I knew this guy or I knew that girl. And
Right.
you know what? I think in all reality, when people really start to understand the entrepreneurial journey, there's always seasons they could laugh. You know what I mean? Because like it's not just a upscale trajectory. Like anybody that studies a stock chart and just looks at a multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar business, a lot of the days are red more than they are green. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Right.
That's why it's like it's so lucrative to become a day trader or stock trader, because there's so few opportunities for you to truly win unless you're a long holding trader. It's a short-term trading. It's super risky because you got to pick the
Hmm.
days and the weeks and the months and years that win. So it's like there were so many people that laughed at me, in the very beginning, and that I disconnected with because they didn't understand what I was getting into, especially in that small town, Greensburg area where people are like not familiar with entrepreneurship. The full transparency in the entrepreneurial world, because people think I'm going to get into sales or build a business or start this and I'm going to be a millionaire. Yeah, a
Yeah.
gross millionaire. But the liquid millions that really start to sustain and hold, it takes years. But it's cool to see my original dream of being a UPS pilot now became a monthly expense. Like I got to spend that to grow this
Yeah.
business and handle
Totally.
this and handle that. So it's cool to see it full circle. And it's cool to see all the people that laughed at me too, because I have zero ego. I laugh at myself. I'm like, you're so dumb for that. And for me, because it's like ego prevents you from earning. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's like
Yep.
anytime there's ego involved and it's unhealthy, it's typically going to prevent you from receiving more in life. Like I laugh. I listen to guys that are, if a guy's 12 years old and he's got better advice, hey, do this with your media, do this with your marketing. If a guy's 82 years old or it's a girl, you know what I mean? Like, it don't matter to me, dude. I just want to win. And that's when you know
Right.
you're a real competitor. When you're a real competitor, like your discriminating factor is what's going to help me win honestly and more. Like I'm not looking to compromise character and I'm not looking to lose. So now it's like I'll do whatever it takes and I'll learn from whoever it is to put me in a position to win more in this life. I don't care what you look like, how old you are, how young you are, who you pray to. I want to win.
Yeah, I love that because we talk about that all the time of having no ego. And it's difficult at the beginning for sure for guys like us who are young in an industry. Like you talk about, we're in financial services, you're in insurance. It's an
Dude,
industry that has been dominated for a while by older individuals, people who, oh, to be good in this industry, you got to do it for 30 plus years to even have a chance of getting to those goals that you talked about, becoming a multimillionaire, building a successful team.
There's a lot of what I would call sleepy businesses out there. And when you are young and energetic and you're passionate about what you do, a lot of times someone who has done something for 40 plus years, sometimes towards the tail end of their career, like, which it makes sense totally. Like, they start to let off the gas, they maybe start working 3 days a week. Like, they're not as motivated to grow the business, have higher level employee trajectory, like all of those different things that do eventually result into a better client and customer experience. So what we've been able to find is, especially with sleepy businesses in our industry or around our industry, is when you have an established business, and let's just use like round numbers, for example, let's say you have a client slash customer base of 250 people. And let's say that business, each client on an annual basis yields $1,000 a year, and that's $250,000 business. What we've been able to find through one, like revitalizing the client experience, the service model, the systems, the processes, things of that nature, revitalize the marketing, so more interaction, client events, newsletters, things like that. You're able to take not only the per customer yield from like 1,000 to what we've seen $2,000-$3,000, but you're also able to take that 250 people and get them to go tell 4 people each, and it becomes 1,000 people, and then you have those 1,000 that then continues to grow through your different marketing efforts. So it's very difficult if you have, let's say, like no experience in an industry and you're trying to start a business from scratch. Like, there's too many players out there to try and do that from like literally zero client base. It's at least going to take you like 3, 4, 5+ years to establish that initial client base to then get the traction of like really rapid growth. But if you're able to work a deal, which it's possible, like people think you need money to buy a business. We had zero money, like literally negative money. Like when we bought a business, like you can work deals, and we have an episode on this, like with creative financing, seller financing, where we got into that, but you can work a deal that makes sense for both sides. That again, like it allows you to buy that base level client base and then allows you to come in with new ideas, revamp that, and kind of take it to the next level and create a better business overall. There's not a lot of players in what I would call the lower market game. There's players in the mid market, but the small market, there's not a lot of players. So it's a massive opportunity if you're looking to get into like, hey, I want to, let's say like I started this, and we'll just keep using the example of like auto body shop. And like, let's say you run a really good auto body shop, you make $250,000 a year, but like you have learned that you're maxed and you're like, okay, like I feel though that like I run a really lean, profitable, great business. I do things a little bit differently that creates an awesome client experience. Like I want to go do this at scale. Like if you go around to the other auto body shops around you, I can guarantee that you're going to find a lot of guys who are 60+ years old. They have reached their standpoint of like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And to be completely honest, like they know that no one's going to come in and give them, let's say, a 5x multiple and give them cash up front. Like they know that's not realistic. But what they do know is realistic is you create some type of seller finance offer where you're like, hey, how much money were you making net, let's say, from your auto body shop? And they're like $10,000 a month. And you're like, okay, I'll give you $10,000 a month for the next 5 years as an earnout. And I know by looking at this business and looking at an underserved client base, let's say, or you have certain products and services that they currently do not offer that you know you would be able to take that yield per customer up from, let's say, $1,000 per customer to $2,000 per customer. You can come in and you know, like, okay, well, I'm going to have to pay this guy 10, but I know that I can start making 25 off of this with the existing infrastructure that's already in place or that I already provide. So like, then compounding that is then like what we have now gotten into.
We just do it over and over and
8
over
figures
again.
plus revenue. We've bought and merged with, I think at this point, almost 10 different businesses that we've done in various industries. And now like we're starting to get into where like, not that again, like we won't go look at a good $300,000 business, but like now we're getting into the businesses that are doing 7 figures in revenue and we're conglomerating there because ultimately the goal in this game long-term is you have those very large scale conglomerators in the private equity space that have deep pockets that are looking for consistent revenue streams, built out infrastructure, all of those different things. And they want to come in and either minority purchase you or completely buy you out. So that small market though is like really a niche, and it's a massive opportunity. And I think like what would be nice for people to hear is kind of along the lines of how you structured the first earn out deal, because you obviously had no money,
Right.
and areas that you identified within that business that you knew based on the amount that you were going to have to pay the seller, where you can be like, hey, I know that like I'm going to be able to make like a lot more money than that. I think talking through that process like would be very helpful for everyone.
For sure. Like every time I approach any deal, and I even did it, the very first deal I ever did that got all this started was like, if you don't approach the deal from an adversarial viewpoint, if you approach from a lens of, to get this to close, I'm going to find out a way to make this a win for the seller and a win for us, like you'll A, never get a bad reputation, and B, like most likely you're going to be able to find some common ground where it works for everybody. Like I think when you get to the Blackstone or like, you know, the JP, like the largest aggregators in the world, at that point you have wiggle room to just be like, this is our deal, take it or leave it. I'll take it or leave it. But when you're starting off, if you just try to be cutthroat and it's just like my way or the highway, you're not going to close anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's why people never get deals done. Everyone talks about wanting to do, like everybody talks about wanting to do deals. Nobody ever does them, because in their mind, they're just coming in like, well, I only pay this multiple, or like I'm only doing this type of deal. And like, you're never going to find any deal. So like step one is you got to be flexible and have a creative problem solving mind. Just like any client situation, you're looking to solve problems for the clients and provide them a solution. And that's what's going to close the client. You do the exact same thing in any business to business deal. That seller is going to have problems and constraints in their life, and you got to be able to solve those, and you solve the deal.
Like, I guess just with all your car salesmen, like, do you have a specific process that you follow to train and develop them? And kind of like what is
I'm
that
involved
for you?
in the training too.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the first thing we do is teach them how to meet and greet. Okay, and then we want them to set long-term, mid-term, short-term goals. And it's not number of cars, but where do you want to be? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? Where do you want to be 2.5 years from now? Where do you want to be next year? And then we teach them how to goal set, as far as like, I want to sell 15 cars. Oh, that's great. How are you going to do it?
Yeah.
So what equals 15 cars? Well, our store's closing ratio is this. Until we get yours, you have to get in front of this many people. You have to do all the right things, know your product, and that'll equal this. So forget about 15 sales. You got to get in front of 35 people. So that's all I can manage. I can't manage, you know.
Right.
Hopefully you're likable, because I can't teach that either. So we try to
connect with people.
Try to hire likable people.
Yep.
And then through the process, someone might not get out of training because they just don't have it. They don't do their homework. They don't, you know. But we're training 3 young people right now, and they're just great. So again, you know, so if they mess up, it's on me. And Joe Ferrero helps me do the training. Joe's been with us since the 80s.
Okay.
So he's a really good trainer. So they're going to get a role opportunity. Then we believe in role playing, so we role play before. Then we have the young salesman help an older salesman through the process. So when it's their time, they're not practicing on the customer. So they learn how to stalk a trade in, they learn to go in a demo ride, they learn to ask questions. Because if you guys are looking at the car, the two of you, looking at the same car, you have 5 different things that you want to do. So I better find out what you want, take all that product knowledge and say, right? All the product knowledge. I just can't tell you everything I know. I'll bore you.
So I really don't ask any specific questions in the interview. I want to know if somebody has 3 things. I want to know if, like, sort of like you said, are they likable? Are they just generally a nice, positive person? Not like zero pessimist. I want someone that's just optimistic. 2, do I think they generally want to help people in their heart? Like, do they have a heart to help other people? And 3, do they just want to better themselves in their life and grow? And I always say, if someone has all 3 of those things, we will find something for them to do here long term. Because that's, like, for me, those are the 3 things that I want our culture to always be, and be full of those types of people. So I just look for 3 attributes. I don't care if someone has a degree, not a degree, if they have experience, not experience. I just purely want those 3 attributes. And anyone that embodies those 3 attributes has been incredibly successful here. The only thing that I am committed that we do better than everybody else is we will service people and serve people and problem solve for people better than anyone else, because we won't say no. Just like whatever someone needs help with, yep, we will help you with that. And it's not like, hey, that we'll help you with it the second Tuesday of next month at 1 p.m. at our office. It's like, we'll meet you where you're at in life, and as soon as possible, we'll help you with that. And I think that you've set your business up the exact same way, to where like you're just on call whenever. Our entire team knows that's the standard here. You're on call whenever, because like we are here to make things better and support people where they're stressed out. You know, our clients are stressed out about different stuff, but we're literally just helping them solve for not needing to be stressed about that thing anymore. And we are shouldering that burden for them. You take all of those concerns off somebody and make it easy of you just need to worry about these controllable things. I'll game plan and figure out how to get you there. But I just need you focused today on like, just physically, like you said, physically just getting into the game.
Just show up.
Like, what are you
in the corner? 30 minutes. Okay, if that's what we're at, right? And similar. Then we'll progress the next step of that. But we can't jump steps.
Right.
You know, it's building a house. So you got to start with the foundation, right? And again, depending on the type of house you're building, probably determines what house you just left, right? Like that's kind of like the analogy a little bit. And like fitness and finance is extremely similar. Like dieting alone is like basically just like budgeting.
Right.
You know, and I won't get into the weeds of all that kind of stuff, but like developing a better financial plan is barely different than developing a good fitness plan. But like from a business perspective, you know, having that support kind of around the clock and, you know, like getting your team to the point where we know the standard that we're providing our clients and our customers, it makes it, you know, it can feel when you're starting out and like, that's all you, like, you don't have other people to pass it on to necessarily. Like when you're starting out, it's like 24/7 support, but like, that means your own fault. 24/7. Like, you gotta be ready to grind. But that's all you need to like beat a lot of people. Like the standard for customer service has never been lower.
So
like you can it's not that hard to win. Like be nice to people, smile, like, you know, understand that like, if they're coming to you for a problem, it's because they do think it's the worst problem in the world.
Right.
If it's not the worst problem in the world, like walk them through why it isn't. And if it is the worst problem in the world and it's your fault, like, hey man,
fix it.
I messed up and we're going to fix it and we're going to do everything we can to fix it. And we appreciate the opportunity we appreciate that you're giving us the opportunity to fix it.
I like that you said, like you talked about, essentially the bar is so low now. Like anybody who says it's like harder now, it's
oh my gosh.
Like you're just so lazy because in our opinion, the bar in the competition is literally so low. It has never been easier to do business with all the technology we have. And people just inherently, at least in our industry, we've noticed it. And I think that's why we've skyrocketed over the last 4 years. People are lazy. And I'm sure you could speak to that as well, that you have seen in your industry. Like people are lazy.
I can't wait to get like the right people in here. And I'm all for teaching, giving tips, giving information, education. I don't even know what to say too much, but I'm excited to build it because I want to see people do good. Like even if somebody comes in here, they want to work in here and then they want to leave and go do their own thing, that's awesome. Because that's what I wanted to do. And that's what I did. And I mean, that's just the nature of the business. People grow, right? So I never wanted to be the ceiling in the room, like the still part in the room. So yeah, I hope, I can't wait. It'd be so awesome for somebody to come in here, learn how to work, learn how to run a business, learn how to manage their time, and then go do bigger things for their own. Like I don't mind. Like I'm past. I'm good. I'm mature. I'm a dad. Like it's just be like having like my kids. I want to see 100% do good. I want to see somebody come under my umbrella in here and then leave and go do good and do better things for themselves. I'm excited. I can't wait.
For me, that's the most rewarding feeling there is like fostering that growth in your people and then watching them prosper and grow in life is like the most rewarding experience for me for sure. And I would assume you'll be the same way, if not get even more joy out of it than.
But on the same side of it too, I want people to come in here. I want to treat people good where come here, maybe they don't want to leave too. Like that's perfect too. You know, I'm excited. I'm excited for the whole thing.
But, you know, a lot of just surrounding myself. I think proximity is really important. People who I would consider friends, I also consider mentors, because if you're a friend to me, you're going to give me insight if I need it. And likewise, if I'm going to be a good friend to you and I have insight that can get you out of mind space that you're in, it might be negative, or if you need some business advice, or if you need something, I think the best mentors are actually the people you keep closest to. They don't necessarily have to be someone you pay. But anyone who is able to lend their perspective, I think in general is a good mentor. So if you see anybody who continually shows up for you that way in your life, I would think of them more as a mentor than a friend, personally.
Yeah. I like that you said in different aspects of life, like your parents compared to like your friends, because like no matter what someone has done, like someone, let's say, who doesn't even do business, like they could give you like a little tidbit of some type of information that may help you connect the dots in another area of your life.
100%.
So I like what you said about that, because like some people, and it's honestly sometimes better that you ask questions to people that are completely outside of everything that you do. Like I have a couple friends, and even like my parents, where like they're very outside of what I do, but sometimes they'll give me tidbits, or like they'll give me a piece of advice, and I'm like, wait, like that's would be a perfect solution to like this issue that I'm dealing with right now, like within our business.
Well, even yesterday, Nick.
Yeah.
Like right after breakfast.
Yeah, I know.
Like yesterday, Nick and I were in New York City yesterday, and we're constantly trying to. We always plan backwards. We know, sort of like what you said earlier. You have this huge goal, and then with you could just have a huge goal, but you obviously have to have a plan to get there. You're not just going to aimlessly go into the world and find yourself there. So we always start, where do we want to go, and then plan backwards and work the chain every step to exactly where we are today, and that tells us how to get there. So we like to talk through that end goal with, exactly like you said, people outside of what we do that really aren't even in our industry, because they have way different perspective that we could miss. And like just yesterday, like it was Nick's one friend from college that is not in our industry at all, and he like identified, I would say, blind spots for things that I didn't think about. And it was like a great hour coffee that we had yesterday that was just friends just sharing perspective and insight. And it's easy to take those relationships and connections for granted, but sometimes they can be invaluable.
I think the number one thing is setting goals or achievements that are measurable. So a lot of people go into the new year and they like New Year resolution. I hate the word New Year resolution, because it's something that is like, okay, I'm only going to do this for maybe 30 days or for the first 2 months of the year. Setting clear, measurable expectations of yourself. So for example, let's say that you're 40 pounds overweight and you want to get in shape.
Yep.
Do not, if you use a vision board, I don't use a vision board. I personally, I set like 4 to 5 business goals, and I set 4 to 5 personal goals. And within my personal goals, like I have one that's dedicated to fitness. So for you, if it's you want to lose 40 pounds, don't put on your goals, I want to get in better shape, because that's an unmeasurable goal.
It's objective.
Exactly.
You could be 200, you could be
objective.
250 pounds, and someone that's 350 thinks you're the picture of health.
Exactly.
But someone that's 195 is like, hey, you got a lot of work.
Exactly. So the number one thing is set measurable goals for yourself going into the next year, and also understand that you are not going to change the world in a month or even a year. Like, especially if it's like, let's say you're severely overweight, like you might not get to your goal weight in a year. Like this might be a 2, 3, 4 year process. If you're an entrepreneur or you're an employee and you want to become an entrepreneur, it might not be a year. It might be 2 or 3, but setting measurable goals of getting to a standpoint to put you in a better position to eventually get to that is a win in itself. So I think the number one thing people need to do is definitely write down what you want to achieve. Don't just keep it in your head. Don't change it throughout the year. Like write down at the beginning of the year what those personal and professional goals are going to be, and then like steps within the year of how you're going to attain those. So that's how I go at it. And I look back, I just did it. I look back at my 2024 goals. There was 5 goals that I hit. There was 3 goals that I didn't hit. So then those will get reframed into 2025. Why didn't I hit those? Reflect on that, looking at what you did in the past. But if you're starting right now from ground zero, put those personal and professional goals on a piece of paper, on your wall, whatever it is, and then you have some measurable aspect to then analyze your year when you look back at the beginning. Now, that's the way that I go about it. Do you go about it in a different way? Like, how do you kind of set yourself up for the new year as you go year to year?
It starts definitely obviously before you actually get into the new year. And I literally like doing it on the last day of the year. So today is, December 30th. Tomorrow's when we're filming this. Tomorrow's actually New Year's Eve. But on New Year's Eve, I will sit down for probably 2 hours as soon as I wake up. And I go back to what I messaged to our organization. Because every year I send out a New Year's Eve email to the entire team. And I go back and look at what was important a year ago to the organization, because whatever's important to the organization is really the most important thing in my life of where my goals are being driven from. And I look back at what did I put out that was really the biggest objective to the team, and then did we hit that or not? Then the next thing I always look at is it's any leader's responsibility to get in front of your organization at the start of the year, lay out your strategy on what you're going to accomplish for the year and how you're going to get there. Think of basically from a sports stance, every NFL coach on Monday morning gets up in front of their team and gives them the game plan of how they're going to beat the next team the next week. Like, it's your responsibility as a leader to give your team where you're going and then the game plan of how you're going to get there. So I always then look at, exactly what was the strategy and then what changed throughout the year. And it's a really important reflection point that's going to drive your decision making, I think, for the next year. Because you don't want to randomly just throw darts at the wall of just random shit. It should be meaningful, and it should also connect. You don't want, your life is not a spike chart up and down. It's a lot more, gradual, and everything should be connected. It's not, a rubber band effect, one way or the other. So I try to connect the goals leading into each other to make it more of a life campaign plan than just fighting individual battles. So that's what I do on the business side. And the personal side, I already know, I think, by the end of the year, what's most important to me for the next year. I would say, for me personally, going into 25, lots changed in my life now with being done with the military. So it's going to free up, really personal time of 50 to 100 days for 2025. So for me, it's the first time in a decade that I've had that much, essentially free time, you can call it, to where the biggest gap in my life right now is definitely time with my kids. So for me, my, I would say biggest personal objective next year is just having even more meaningful time with my two boys and creating memories, especially now that Anthony's old enough, probably he's going to remember this next year. Everyone really goes back to when they're like 4 or 5 and that's their first memories. So for me, it is to create a lifelong memories with my boys next year that they'll remember the rest of their life with all that free time, and, not just roll that back into work basically. Because I just want this to be super meaningful part of their life. Because everyone's childhood in one way or another really dictates, and it's either going to provide, reinforcement of like, I'm going to be just like dad, or it's going to provide reinforcement of like, I'm never going to do what dad did. So I want to, obviously want them to want to do what I did when they have their own kids. So definitely a huge year for me and meaningful with my kids next year.
You definitely have to be okay with being uncomfortable during those changes. Like, we went from a totally different document file storage structure system and transition to a new one. Extremely uncomfortable process for like 60 days for like every single person in your organization. But then you get to the end and it's like way better. And then we're doing the same thing with a different like base platform that we use every single day, and we're transitioning it to another base platform. It's going to be extremely uncomfortable for like literally 60 days, but then it's over and it's so much easier after that. So like, I think a lot of people get held up on the 60 days of like, oh, well, business is going to continue to go. How am I going to get through this? Which you have to push through that. It's just, again, it's like, it's part of just growing pains. You can't be fixated on like, oh, well, this works for now and this is comfortable for now.
Classic, if it's not broken, why change
don't fix it, which that's a terrible attitude to go about anything. Like, there should never be a time, especially if you're a business owner, there should never be a day that you aren't looking at your business and you're like, how do I make this organization better? How do I make this organization more efficient? How do I provide a better service model? How do I make this organization more profitable? Like, how do I maximize opportunity for employee growth in my company? Like, you should be thinking that every single day. And if you ever let off the gas, then like, you're not being a good leader.
And I think that, again, this is an area where like, to stress on how important it is to have partners in businesses, to where like it is impossible to do that if you are wearing like 73 hats like most entrepreneurs do, and then like just never break through to the next phase, to where like right now, like all the things we're talking about is like your world. Like, this is your everyday, everything that you are focusing on. If I was focusing on all of that, I wouldn't be able to be looking forward at everything we're trying to do external to the organization, where it's just like so crucial to have people that you're aligned with, that you trust, that you respect, that like like we talk about all the time, everyone just having their sphere of influence and lane that they're affecting the org in a positive way. And it's just 10xing the output of everything if you have people that are doing all of the above. So this is definitely where you strive and thrive in our org.
People get nervous. They're like, oh, is AI going to take my job? It's like, well, AI shouldn't take your job. Like if you can truly add value, AI should only help you add more value to what you are doing in your organization if used correctly. So definitely is not like replace your people with technology, because that's the complete wrong way to go about it, because then you'll get steamrolled by businesses like ours that still meet people in person, still have human touch. That's where people lose it a lot. But
Find a way that you can maximize your efficiency and your people's efficiency using technology. And like, that's going to continue to help you level up and scale. When people have a good idea, they're afraid of people stealing it. But when like people have a great idea, like they know nobody else can do it. And like we, especially in the beginning, like we, whatever, with our like whole growth strategy, we, without getting into it, we have like a unique way of really like rapidly growing our business. And at first we like didn't want to tell, like we were like really like we were so secretive, because we're like we have this like
Keeper.
yeah, we're like we have this crazy idea, and like but we can't. But then once we got into it more, we're like, wait, like we could tell everyone about this, and no one can do it. Like no one would be able to execute on it the way that we execute on it, because like nobody works as hard as us. We know how to actually do it. So I think it's like very similar to you. Like, I mean, there's a million companies that do very similar things, but there's few companies that really excel at those few things, because there is something unique about what they do in some way, shape, or form. So I like that example, because there will always be somebody who tries to like steal what you're doing, but it's just always going to be there. That's the battle of business, I think, and of life in general.
And also too, like what you said, it gets to a point where it's kind of like flattering. It's like, oh, okay, I see you, girl.
Right.
You.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time too, like as an innovator and an advocate, like people are going to anyway. Like I'm aware of that. Honestly, like go ahead, I encourage it. Like again, I didn't have anybody like me to look at or to look up to. So if I can be that to others, absolutely. You know, I got my Krabby Patty sauce is my Krabby Patty sauce. Your sauce is different. You know what I mean? But you know, my Krabby Patty sauce is pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, I got some good sauce. But at the end of the day, though, I always say like my blessings have my name on them, and what's for me is for me. What's you is for you. To each his own, right? So nobody could ever take that away from me. So no matter how many people try to, imitate, or how many no's, how many closed doors or things like that, like again, you just got to keep going.
Yeah.
Like there's really, I don't know what no means.
Yeah. That's like, it seems so stupid and simple, but 99% of people can't deal with that.
Yeah,
And I think
rejection.
that's just what separates people that get to wherever they want to go, is because so many people get told no along the way, they can't do it, and then they just listen to that. Everyone out there, thank you for watching, and stay disciplined.